Director Walper. Director Martinez. Director Berman. Director Johnston.
Here.
Director Shibahara.
Here.
Vice Chair Wheeler.
Here.
Chair Rydell.
Here.
Elena Snyder.
Here.
Jody Bever. Melanie Wagner.
Here.
Lindsay Park.
Here.
Carol Kaiser Worthy. And Kendra Perkins.
All right. Okay, ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hopefully that's my last procedural gaffe this evening.
Still is gal.
Closing.
That is
That's it.
Early in the evening.
It is still early. A lot can happen. Okay, so again, welcome. So early in the budget season. So right now is the just a workshop, right? To talk things.
Expenditures There are 5 phases to the budget process. We work with the staff on their own budgets. We prepare a proposed budget, then an approved budget, which is what you, the budget committee, will do. And then we take that to the board, and the board adopts the budget. And then we begin our process of working with that budget. And then any changes, we would stay within law and work with the board on that. The phases of proposed budget. Develop a budget calendar, which our board did approve. We develop our board goals and our priorities, and then prepare a proposed budget. We have our notices that we publish to the public, and then we hold our budget committee meetings. The proposed budget is prepared by fund. The resources, which is our revenues and requirements, must be balanced, equals 0. Revenues minus expenditures equals 0. And we give an estimate of resources and requirements based on the information known at the time. This is what our budget template is, what it looks like. We look at 2 years of historical information, actuals. We show you our current working budget. And then we do the proposed, approved, and adopted. How we prepare our budget. We start by looking at the beginning fund balance for each fund. We add the revenues for the fund, including transfers from one fund to another. And then we determine the expenditures of those funds. Resources. These are most of our main resources. We have our state school fund, which we will go more information about that, our property taxes, our interest, our ESD, not Estacada School District, but our CESD from Clackamas ESD. Our fees are local fees, and that can be tuition, sports fees, rent, grants, and then other miscellaneous revenues. Requirements and expenditures. Expenditures are broken out by functions, and a function is instructional support, which is our classrooms. That's instruction is if it is directly related to our classroom. Support services, which would be transportation, pretty much district office, food, well, not food service, sorry, transportation, principals. Community services, that's where our food service mostly is. Facilities acquisitions, that's mainly our capital projects where we do and update anything in our buildings. And then debt service, which is strictly for when we pay our debt. And then additionally requirements, that's if we do new one for sorry. Is the salary. Anything with a 200 is a payroll cost, including benefits. So that's taxes, benefits. Purchase services is 300. And we also put our subs there, our sub costs, because we do contract out for our subs. That is also our utilities. Supplies and materials, that would be our 400s. Capital outlay, that's depreciable equipment and technology. That's for any items that we purchase over $5,000. 600. Days or more than 30 days prior to the meeting, and they have to be published at least published twice at 5 days apart. I do know that they are trying to change that to an electronic publishing, but right now it is published in general newspaper.
What are you doing with because isn't the local newspaper not doing anything anymore, printing anymore? Or are still?
They will still, yeah.
Okay.
Once a week.
Some
Once a
point,
week.
not so much. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yep. Great question, though. Budget committee. It consists of a governing body plus an equal number of appointed electors. So we have 7 board members and 7 budget committee members. Appointed members cannot be employees, agents, or officers of the district. They serve in a staggered of 3-year terms, and all members have the same authority. Budget committee and board members have the same member of voting rights on the budget committee. Budget committee duties. You receive the budget document. You're going to receive the superintendent's budget message. You're going to review the proposed budget, hear public question and comments, and then discuss and adjust the budget determined by the majority. Approve the budget and recommend adoption to the board, and also approve proposed property taxes. Any questions about that? All meetings of the budget committee are open to the public. We allow public comment at one or more meetings. The budget becomes a public document when released to the committee. And quorum is required to conduct business, hear testimony, or take action. Quorum is the majority of committee members. So just a little notice about this. Our first official budget committee is May 12th. I think it's a Wednesday, but we will have the budget document. I will be releasing it to you electronically the week before on May 3rd. So check your emails. And at that time, May 10th, thank you. And at that time, it will also be published on our website. At the first meeting on May 10th, we'll elect the presiding officer, receive the budget document, hear the budget message. You'll get an explanation of the budget document. The budget message gives an explanation of the budget document. It describes our policies and it'll explain any changes in the budget document from the prior year. And this is when we will allow comment from the public. A majority of the committee must approve the motion. The budget committee approves the proposed budget as presented or amended. Once approved, the committee's work is complete until the next budget cycle. And I'm almost done with the logistics. I'm going to go into the fun stuff. Then after that is approved, we have to publish for the public hearing, which is our ED1 form. It again is not published only once, but not less than 5 days or more than 30 days before the board hearing, which is our June board meeting. And you'll see there, it has the time of place, hearing, location where budget may be reviewed in advance. The governing body, the board, will hold a budget hearing at the June board meeting. They'll hear testimony from interested parties. They will consider the budget committee's work and public comments, and they'll deliberate. And the governing body, they can adjust budget estimates or propose taxes. They may increase expenditures within limit. So here's the caveat. If expenditures in the fund increase by more than 10% or 5,000, whichever is greater, or if the rate of the amount of taxes is increased, then we must republish the document and hold another public hearing. So how the budget is built. Step one is we estimate our state school fund and our other income or revenue. You'll see there the state school fund is information that we give them in December, estimates we give them. That information comes to us at the end of February or beginning of March. Property taxes are estimates based on collection trends analysis. And so is tuition. Tuition is based upon what we currently have been receiving, the trend analysis and contracts that we are expecting. And then others are calculated trend analysis or other incoming contracts that we are aware of. Okay, here's how the 2023-24.
This is the fun part.
This is the fun part. This is when I start getting into the how-tos. Thank you.
Say something real quick.
You sure
It's okay.
can.
Good. Now that kind of everyone's here, I do think it's important to welcome back our budget committee. And thank you so much for being here again this year. This is always a fun time of year as we get to dream about what next year looks like. And we're excited to share with each of you kind of our dreams and aspirations as we create the budget together. And I also want to just point out both publicly and personally, one of our former budget member committees passed away over the course of last year, and that was Ralph Branson. And Ralph has been a lifelong servant of the Estacada School District, both as a board member, a pillar of our community, and then also as he retired from his board's director duties, has always been a faithful servant on our budget committee. And so we will miss Ralph. We have appreciated his service, and our condolences to his family as well. And I just want to say in conclusion, before we get to the fun stuff, that I just want to thank the budget committee. You put together a great budget for our school district this year, and it has allowed us to do so many things that has led to considerable improvement. Right now, our students are learning at a 9% clip better this year than last year. Our employee engagement is higher this year than it was last year. Our parents are expressing a deeper satisfaction for the services that we're providing, and our district services in terms of customer service excellence has also increased. And I'll be sharing that with the board this evening at the school board meeting, but there's a lot of evidence that suggests that what we have funded and the priorities that we have funded is correlating to increased outcomes for our students and increased experiences for our families who engage with our school district. And so I just wanted to say thank you. The thing that you put together, oversee, and collect is ultimately what drives who we want to be as a school district, and things are going well, and we project that we're going to end this year healthy and with the ability to continue to invest in our top priorities. So very pleased with that, and I think I echo the board sentiments in terms of the purpose that you serve. You are all busy people. You're all leaders in this community. And I just want to say thank you for spending your time with us.
Thank you very much. So this information was given to the state ODE in December. So we estimated our enrollment for next year. And you can see there's a top line, the ADMR, we estimated 3,160. And you can see there next to it in 22-23 is lower. And then the difference is the 23-24 includes the charter school numbers. The ones for 22-23 are just Estacada School District. So that's difference, but we will be paid. So as you go down, the district receives extra weights for providing services for certain types of activities. And you can see there the extra weights that we receive. So we're starting with the ADMR of 3,160, and we're ending with the ADMW of 3,623. And that is our extended ADMW. So extended means they take the higher of this current year and are projected, and that's what we will be paid off. So we're going to be paid off our next year's projection for ADMW. Any questions on that before I move on?
Christine, I have one. So was it a rules change that we're now including the charter school in that ADMR? Or is it just?
It always happens for projections, and they start as the year folds out, they'll pull it out, but we're always paid ADMW based off the two numbers combined, and then we pass through the money to our charter school.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So we will recognize that full revenue, but we also have it in our expenditure line that we pay them for that,
So do we pay them the exact same rate that we get for them, or a portion of it?
a portion of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, great question.
They get 80% and we keep 20%.
I was thinking it was 75, 25. Is that typical for charter schools?
No, actually, we're doing quite well with that. The typical allocations in the state is typically 95% to charters and 5% to sponsoring school districts. So our deal is really quite good. And we also have a enrollment cap. And so anytime they exceed the enrollment cap, any child above that enrollment cap, it's actually 40% to the district and 60% to the charter.
Is that something negotiated regularly?
Correct, yes. I believe we have we just renegotiated a 10-year contract with them.
Thanks.
Is part of the reason that that rate is so well for Escada School District is because they're in our building?
Yeah, that's in lieu of rent and some other things that goes in that direction. But how the charter school Summit Charter was established was really a branch off of the Estacada School District, and the former principal and other former leaders ended up moving from the district to there. So there's always been a strong bond and partnership, and it has always been a collaborative effort. The district fronted the money in an effort for this thing to get off, and so this is kind of also how it's been paid back over time, et cetera.
And here is our projection for our local revenue. We're projecting the 7.5 million in property taxes. A common school fund is received from the state, that's 310,000. And then, so our total local revenues is 7.8 million. And then down there at the bottom, you can see our 2023-24 experience ODE, those are not my projections. The district's average teaching experience is 9.65 years. The state average is 11.95. So that's an adjustment of negative 2.25. And these are important because they'll come into the formula I'm going to show you. And then there's the transportation grant. We're estimating 1.6 million for transportation expenditures. And we again get 70% of that, which would be 1.12. And then we already kind of went through this. The 2023-24 is 3,623. Our current year is 3,561. So our extended is going to be the higher of the two. Okay, here's the formula. So for the 23-25 biennium, and right now we're using 9.9 billion, which is split between 49 the first year and 51 the second year of the biennium. So looking at that, you can see the first line, you multiply the teacher experience, which is the negative 2.25 by 25, and then add 45,000. So we get 4,443. And then you multiply that by our extended ADMW, which is the 3,603. And then use a funding formula, which comes from the state and it changes. That's 2.61. I'm not going to read it all to you. And you get the 34,782,000. And we're going to move that down, and they're going to add to it our transportation grant, our 1.10 that we're going to be reimbursed. And we're going to move that down. We're going to subtract our local revenue, our property taxes, and our common school fund from that. So we're projected to get 28 million from the state school fund for next year. And so we're getting about 9,599 per student, and that includes our local amount too. So that's the state and local amount that we will be paid per student. Any questions on that?
Do you have any idea how that compares to other districts within the state? Is that pretty common, right around that dollar amount?
I can look. I don't have it right off, but I'm happy to look that up for future.
Just curious. It's okay.
Yeah, it's all public on their website, so I can just do some random things. Yeah.
I don't understand why $25 and then 4,500. It's just
I
kind
know
of,
how-
yeah.
It's every year that
It's
yeah,
just
in
like,
the little
I-
ratio.
It just seems
Roll the
really.
I tell you,
Let's put December and December.
I think it's important that for future things that we're doing, that third box is highlighted to make sure that folks understand that that local revenue is removed,
mhm,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that it's not the additional 7 million that is collected locally that is on top of what the state pays us, but actually removed from what the state pays us.
Yeah.
It just needs to be said enough times so people hear that.
Yes. Good
Well,
call.
and that's the other thing is we start talking revenues when you're talking to local families that state school fund and the local taxes offset, right? So if you see an increase in local taxes, which you can see is then that increase is subtracted from what you receive from the state. So
Yeah.
you don't get that, my gosh, property taxes went up by this much, so the school's getting this much more money. We're basically getting the exact same amount of money. We're just getting it in different ways.
Right.
And that's it's another thing that doesn't translate to the private sector really at all. It is a difficult one to understand.
Getting that roughly 36 million period, just where it comes from as well.
Yeah.
Wherever it comes from.
Yep.
And that also comes from lottery, that comes from marijuana tax, that comes from so many different places to fund that. Yeah.
And I-
Lumber.
And I'm pretty sure every school district has that same, and that's why the ratio is, but I just want to look, I wanted to look before I confirm that.
I think the biggest determiner is that experience adjustment. So
Yeah.
that's where you would see a big swing, which is also great to see because it does help cover some of that cost of teachers that are longer into their career, higher up on the salary
Yes.
rate,
Yes.
right? So it doesn't hurt a district to have more experienced teachers and employees because we know that they have a higher price point. And as we try to recruit and retain top tier talent, this is how we're able to help offset some of that increased cost.
Sure.
Just, it's, the 22% or the add-on for transportation are Summit students that are removed from that calculation?
The transfer, that was just our cost for transportation.
Good.
Yeah.
So the,
We
But
don't
what we're
transport
We don't
any
trans-
charter students.
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
That's what we spend, what we're estimating to spend for transportation costs.
And that's our day in, day out cost. That's nothing, that's maintenance on buses,
Everything.
drivers, that's not
Diesel.
doing any new buses or anything like that, just our.
It would include new buses. It's any new buses. Yes. It's anything that we pay in the general fund for transportation. Mhm.
But that also is depreciated over
10 years.
10 years, right?
Mhm.
So it's not like we get a 70% chunk every year, but once you get to that point where you're getting a seventh of it or a tenth of it, then you're getting it every year.
Okay. So going on to some more information. This is historical state school from. This is actual a chart that Oregon Trail ladies use. This is from the state of Oregon. This is how they have broken down their state school fund. So you see it's starting way back in 2011 and it's broken out how the state school fund is made up between general fund, lottery funds, and the marijuana tax. And then you see the state's total general fund and the percentage of the general fund. So that the line that I'm wanting you to look at right now is the percentage of the general fund. So in 2011-13, we had 39.6 of it. Their general fund was allocated to the state school fund. In 2013-15, that went up to 39.84, I think. And in 2015-17, it declined to 38.99. And then in I'm going to drop down a little bit now. Drop down to 2017-19. We're going to add the SIA grant to that and the high school success grant. So that year we were at 40.8% of the general fund.
Of the state, right?
The state's general fund, yes. And then in 2019-21, we're at 40.6 of the state's general fund. And this current biennium, which we're at 38.75% of the general fund. And then so going into 2023-25, with the current 9.9, we're at 34.92%. So to get to about 39%, we would need 11.21 billion. Does that make sense? So currently we're projected to be 9.9 for the state school fund. That's what they're projecting to get us. That will bring us down to 34.92%.
I got a question. I could be totally off on this. So percentage of general fund starting in 11, 13, you're at 39% and a little bit. And then it's 39 and a little bit more, a little under 39%. And then we start adding taxes. So 17, 19, is that measure 98, 99?
As 99. And then,
Yes.
yes,
So we added taxes to the people, but the amount that's going into the school increased very slightly.
Correct.
Because all they did was take something we were getting and moved it and gave us a new one.
exactly.
And that's the point of this.
Yeah.
Then we added the cat tax.
And marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
So reduced more.
So the,
That's exactly what I was wanting you to get. And then the other part of that is that with the current funding, we're dropping, even with those, we're still dropping quite a bit.
But then also at that far right column, the total state school fund on this is saying 11.2.
That's if we would need 11.21 to get 39% of the state's general
And we're
fund,
expecting we're going to be at 9.9.
which will bring us to 34.92,
Okay.
including the taxes.
I don't understand. I don't understand what you mean by percent of general fund.
So like how we have our different pots of money. We have our general fund. They have the same pots and they allocate currently every year, they allocate a percentage of the general fund to education, the state school fund.
Okay, so this is their pie.
Yes.
And of their pie,
Yeah.
we're only getting this much of it for education.
Not us as Cicada,
Right,
but
but the state. of
Yes.
For schools,
Okay,
correct.
that's helping me because
Okay.
it's like, I don't.
no, thank you for asking.
Transportation, police, like,
Okay.
just
okay.
human,
Of
health and
the
human
big pie,
services.
This is
Yeah,
all that's being allocated
correct. And that pie is getting smaller.
smaller, even though taxes are going up in
That's
certain
right.
places.
Exactly.
And the other additional is that, there's more requirements to those monies that we're taxed on. The SIA has certain ways that we can spend it. So we have more limitations.
But these are Oregon Trail numbers or these are out?
No, these are state numbers.
State
Okay,
numbers.
that's,
This-
you said Oregon Trail.
Or Oregon Trail prepared the data.
Got it. Thank
Mhm.
you.
But because it's a statewide data,
Yes.
it's applicable to every district.
Yes.
What's also interesting to note, which goes right in line with this, and I learned this today, at 9.9 billion, which is the state's anticipated funding source, really the state fund plans to fund that with 8.5 billion of its revenues, and they've chosen to use 100% of the kicker. So because Oregon's economy was so good last year, all of the business taxes, thank you businesses, we appreciate you, those all go to the state school fund. And so really the state is going to fund 9.9 at 8.5 billion, and they're going to dump in 1.4 million into the state school fund to make 9.9. And that's one-time kicker money. So if next year the state of Oregon doesn't have authorized the kicker, then we are back down to 8.5 billion or less. So I'm excited about, we're going to be fine for this biennium, but year 3 and year 4 from now, I'm very worried at the moment.
And then here's a pretty little chart to show you that how that's working.
Cool.
for the kids.
It's for the kids.
Yeah.
The future of Oregon.
Just work harder.
Everyone saying the cat tax could see that as they say, oh, businesses, you'll be happy to pay this new tax because it's going to the kids. And then
Right.
it's so many are unaware.
So the next step of building the budget is our expenditures. We review mandatory or fixed spending, such as contracted salaries, sub-costs, contracted health benefits, utilities, mandated special education spending, which is our MOE, our mandated professional services contracts, transportation, supplies. Goes on. And then again, where does the money go? It goes to salaries, benefits, and employees' costs, debt, professional services such as substitute costs, charter school payments, utilities, repairs and maintenance, transportation costs such as fuel, equipment, and supplies. And then we identify any variable cost. This is something we do. We can do a trend analysis and we estimate any increases in current costs, such as fuel is one, utilities is another. And then the superintendent, principals, and district administration review all the things such as curriculum needs, state mandates, textbook adoption cycles, professional development plans, equipment needs, building non-labor allocations, technology needs, facility maintenance, and capital improvement needs.
We get any discounts on like utility costs?
No.
Just thinking as a private person, how much it's gone up,
Yes,
thinking, wow,
yes.
huge expense.
And we're budgeting a major percentage more. Property liability, we've also increased by 20% also.
Our insurance cost
Yeah.
has went up 20%.
That's self-funded by PACE, right?
Piece. That's statewide, not just us. So when you're looking at the big picture, our fixed costs and our stamp mandated spending is very big compared to our variable cost. Other variable costs that we look at is, and already went through some of these textbooks, staff, professional development, general supplies for departments, and other possible improvements to programs, instructions, or facilities, and any unexpected state mandates. Calculation of the tax levy. So budget cap. Limitations increase assessed value. So we're fixed maximum tax rate. So we take the amount and it's 1,000 assessed value by law. So we take our debt and that's what we're going to pay. And that's what you're approving. If that makes sense. So how the budget bill is built is we take our anticipated revenues minus our proposed expenditures, and that's a balanced budget. That would be a zero budget. And when you're looking at it, you're looking at the budget document, you'll see it built like this. Our fund, which we went through, that was our general fund, our special revenue fund, our function, our object, our location, our area, and our sub area. And right over there on the right is a little picture of how they will look. And budget in a nutshell, and then a little more fun. Our financial is budget in a nutshell. It's a financial management tool. It's created over a series of months through collaboration of many. Is created at a snapshot in time with agreed upon assumptions. It is created based on availability of resources. Expenditures align with adopted board strategic plan. And appropriation expenditures must conform with budget law. So what does 9.9 billion mean to us, Estacada School District? With this amount, we are representing a need of 1.1 million in reductions to the 2023-24 budget document. The district has collaborated with many leaders to find impactful additions as well as some reductions that limit the impact to students. The adjustments proposed will provide additional support in our buildings and increase services to our supports of our inclusive practice initiative. The reductions have been selected to continue to protect the services that directly impact our students. And to balance our general fund, we already have gone through that, and ooh, you can't really see the green very well. Here is what you will find in our proposed document. We just kind of wanted to give you a heads up. Do you want to go through this part?
Sure, yeah, no, that's fine. So we're really focused on two things. One, balancing that budget, which was at a zero, and that required us to make reductions in our proposed budget to you in May of 3.5% reduction, or basically 1.1 million. But at the same time, we also wanted to make sure we were moving and manipulating things in an effort to improve the services that we are funding in. Like, for example, we continue to grow as a student body, and we are committed to ensuring that our class sizes are manageable for our classroom teachers and specialists. And so from a net perspective, because there are some teachers leaving and we're doing some attrition things in different schools, but net, we're increasing our FTE by 2 classroom teachers in an effort to support the growth. And then the other thing that I'll just talk about is our addition of a middle school counselor. So currently our Estacada Middle School is another booming school, continuing to grow. And we're seeing some very complex behavioral dysregulation from several of our middle school students, and we're deploying too many administrative and other resources. And so this is a good opportunity for us to really right size our counseling per student ratio, allowing for other experts to work with the mental health of our middle school age students. And so we're excited to invest in that. And so those were additions. And so on top of that, and those were high priority adds that we needed to make regardless of where the budget is. And so we did some other things on the back end to make sure that we still rounded out with a on budget budget for the budget committee and board to look through and hopefully approve. A couple of just key pieces that I do want to note as we tried to find 1.1 million without reducing the impacts of what we're offering inside the classroom. So to put it in other words, we tried our best to limit disruption to what's happening in the classroom, and we were effective in doing that. A couple of examples of our proposed savings is to reduce one administrator in the teaching and learning position. So as you know, Scott Sullivan has been a part of the school district really since its origin, and not having him in our school district will be weird, to say the least. We've really appreciated his services, but we have 2 administrators in that role now, Jen Berman with elementary and Scott Sullivan at the secondary. We use this as an opportunity to save some money by just replacing it with some teacher salaried leveled positions instead of administrator salary leveled positions. And so that's one example. We also chose not to purchase 2 school buses, which saves us roughly $250,000. This is a big decision, though, because our fleet is safe, it's up to date, it's doing well, but we are up against a 2025 deadline that requires any bus that was born on 2007 or older, we have to retrofit the diesel exhaust system in an effort to combat global justice. And so we are doing what we can to stay on track with that, knowing that we won't be able to purchase 2 new buses this year. I think everything else is pretty, I'll let you guys just kind of look through that and let the public look through that as well. But at the end of the day, we have been successful in identifying $1.5 million of expenditure reductions that doesn't deplete our force and or impact the services that we're providing to our students. And as you can see in the blue up top, we actually have identified 4 specific additions that we think will lead to greater impact in our services.
Can I ask one quick
Of course
question?
you can,
Because I know
yes.
that this bus thing has been looming for several years.
Yes,
And it seems like we've been putting that off.
we haven't. No,
So I
yeah.
missed that. Okay,
Yep.
we have been doing
Yeah,
it.
we've been chipping away. So about, I want to say probably 5 years ago, we built a plan to hit it at 2025. And we've been on track with that plan up until this coming proposed budget. So if we choose not to purchase 2 buses, we will need to find money probably in 2024 or 25 to retrofit the remaining 2 buses that we fall short in, which would be
Yes,
these
If
buses.
they don't give some sort of reprieve.
Correct.
whenever they're going
You
down.
got it.
So we're
Yep.
hoping for the reprieve since we know that next year's You're not gonna have a choice.
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
And we're in better situation than most districts with regards to this, right?
Correct.
Sure.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, it's uncommon that districts took the aggressive approach that we did to say we're going to commit to it now and
Yeah.
start
And chip
buying
away.
2 a year for, a 7-year period of time, as
Yeah.
opposed to you get 4 or 5 years out and you think, oh my gosh, we gotta buy 20 buses.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do here?
Yeah.
So that was a very smart move by the district, and good vision of what was
Agreed.
coming ahead.
And many districts are moving to electric now, which is a $300,000 bus for one. And so what we're purchasing for two right now, other school districts are moving.
And maybe we don't even know this answer. Is that something that then we're gonna come into the same kind of problem here in another 20 years where they're like,
Possibly,
gotta retrofit all these,
yes.
but in
Yeah.
the long run, it's still probably.
Possibly, which puts our school district at a disadvantage because it's easy for people in the flat metro area to run electric buses. We're 750 square miles in up and down rural elevated roads. And we wouldn't be able to keep a charge. Right now, they go for about 4 to 5 hours, and then it takes 6 to 8 to charge them. And so an electric bus wouldn't serve our purpose at the moment, subject to change, but yeah.
Thank you.
The one roving sub that's getting removed, how many roving subs does that leave? Or does it?
0.
0. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So we feel like that's a better use than just having daily subs come in?
Yeah, so yes and no. So it's kind of two ways of looking at this. So first of all, our substitute fill rate this year has been outstanding, and it's at 92% this year, which is different. But that's because if you'll remember, we came to the board in October and said, let's increase the daily rate, and that has been fruitful for us. People have chosen to get paid, and it also led to a price war between other school districts around us, and now Sandy's offering $300 a day, which is another conversation that needs to be had later. But that's for the planned absence, and that's for like how the whole traditional substitute system goes. We hired a roving sub because not this school year, but last school year, there was a lot of unfilled planned positions. And so we had a body on campus to send in emergency circumstances to spots that didn't get filled with a sub. And so we have had less need for that this year and only this year. But at the same time, we have found that it's cost prohibitive for us to pay a certified teacher at a certified teacher's salary, and then 92% of our positions are getting filled. And so this teacher paid position is actually doing more paraeducator type assistance work. And so we're going to remove that to make our budget balance. But I think in the future, if we do need to make an emergency acquisition like this to solve that, we'll probably hire a paraeducator leveled person. And then if they have to fill a classroom, we can make that adjustment from a pay scale perspective, ultimately being more fiscally responsible from the district's end, if that makes sense. But that person was an emergency alert, like, yeah.
Which also took some of the burden off of building administrators. for
Amen.
filling those,
Yep,
right?
and
So
counselors and other people who are serving the students in different ways.
every time that person covered a classroom, it freed up.
Our
some
vice
to do-
principal did not, or our counselor did not.
Or principal.
Is
Correct.
that a newer position?
Yeah, I mean, it's we've had it since COVID on and off. We never budget for it, and then we make the decision in the middle of the year to make it happen. And this year, I think we did budget for it, and it has turned out to be less. Yeah,
I would imagine that'll continue, barring any unknown virus showing up.
correct. Yes.
Being,
Now that the state rules have changed with substitutes, you think that's going to continue to be lax? Or
I do.
lax
I
probably isn't the right word in that context.
I would say that, yeah, it's definitely a relaxed requirement to gain certification to be an emergency substitute, which does expire over time. So we could emergency license really anybody who can pass a background check to now be a teacher substitute, but that only is for, I think, a 2-year period. And during that time, you have to do things to meet qualifications. And so you do time out of that process. But yes, there is a Senate bill though, and it's gaining traction. We hire, as you'll know, a third-party service called ESS to help recruit and market, and they're our substitutes. So we hire them, and boy, it saved us a lot of time and money and headache of trying to recruit local people who we already have a limited pool. And so this is a metro company, but there's new legislation coming through Salem right now that prohibits school districts from outsourcing substitutes. And this is a big teacher union push. So that's, if that does in fact come to fruition, we are going to have to find an alternative approach to, first of all, bringing back our substitute pool and figuring out how to work through that process.
Is something you could tap student teachers that are working through the process and actually certify them for or is that just totally
Yes.
risky and a bad idea?
No, you can do that because again, you can give anybody an emergency type of circumstance. I think the difficulty and the challenge would be working with those school programs because the school themselves want them to be with a qualified mentor to teach them how to serve and support kids in the right way, and throwing them into the wolves from that perspective, I think would be frowned upon from a student teaching perspective. Yes. But when they graduate from their requirements and they're done, which is typically in March, April, or May, depending on the institution, it's very common for people who finish their teaching degrees to then jump right into the subworld in an effort to try to build connections and get a job. Yeah.
Is
Great
this-
questions.
Is the student services administrator position the one that's in lieu of Scott Sullivan's position?
No, so this is a different administrative position. However, what we're doing is we're really promoting a school psychologist to kind of serve almost as a vice principal, for lack of a better word, to help oversee and supervise some of the work that we're doing when it comes to some of our inclusive practices models. And so, we've learned that not only does the state fund us less, as you see in the general fund, but our requirements to do more for kids, our wraparound services, like we're no longer just teach them how to read, write, and do mathematics. Like how we're serving all children in our classrooms is considerably different. So that has stretched Jason Hobson, who's our director of student services, in a way that we're just not able to provide the help and support for our teachers who are in the front lines of getting in the work. And so what our employees are telling us and what our parents are telling us through their voices, everyone believes in what we're doing, including all students. But when a child is escalated and kicks, bites, hits, spits, all of the above, runs away, runs into traffic, does all of these things, the systems that we have in place right now, I would say are broken in a way that the district is not responding to the needs of the frontline employee in a way that I'd like them to. And so this is an opportunity for us to put a new leader in a spot that can solely focus on how the district supports its employees who are working with our absolutely most complex and challenging students. And we'll track data to see if this budget investment works.
On your PERS reserve fund, how concerned, I guess, I know it's always been very conservative. It's conservative over the years watching that to make sure
Yes.
there's always been that reserve fund, I guess. And I don't know I don't remember the dollar value of what we're talking about, but I guess, do you have concerns over you removing that? And does that have anything to do with potentially what the number you're giving us with the minus 2 point, the experience level too? Does
Right.
that help us, I guess, in being able to eliminate that?
Yeah, so I do have concerns with us using our PERS reserve fund. So as you'll recall, I believe you were on the board of directors when Nick Hogan and I proposed to the board of what we did was we set aside $1 million into our PERS reserve funds because at the time it was kind of a doomsday approach that the PERS interest rates were going to escalate because the, I don't know, second mortgage or whatever the state of Oregon did to like lower those, the sky was falling. And so we were smart and proactive to put $1 million away so that it wouldn't offset that. And over the last 5 or 6 years, we never had to touch it. Like we just kept it, we kept it, we kept it. And so now the PERS reserve interest rate has started to increase in ways that is affecting our general fund expenditures. And so we had to budget, I can't remember what the percentage increase was, but now it is affecting how we budget. And so in our proposition, which you'll see in May, it's our intention to use $250,000 of that million, which is part of that $1.1 million overall budget. But the reason why that concerns me is it gets us to budget and it doesn't impact what we're doing in the classroom, but that's one-time money. And so at some point, just like the state with their kicker, at some point we can't always do that. And so
get it
this is,
back.
yeah, this is, I mean, we're blessed to have this money. Not many school districts do. And so we're utilizing this money as kind of a cushion a little bit as things change to allow us to do that. But I can also, with full ethics, say that this money is also being moved over because our insurance or our retirement rates are truly higher. Yeah.
Okay.
Great question.
So is Scott Sullivan retiring?
Correct.
Without kids in the
Yes.
district, I don't know all this stuff. So,
Yes.
and then is that Scott Sullivan being gone for the district? Is that part of the 0.4 full-time employees from the office of the superintendent? Is that considering him, or is there another reduction within the superintendent?
That's a different one. So Denise was a full-time employee, and she has voluntarily chosen to reduce to a 0.6. It's because she's a grandmother and has kids in different states, and we absolutely support her in that. But so it's different. And really, some of the savings that some of the allocation of what Scott Sullivan's position used to hold, we are replacing it with certified teachers, but there is savings at the end of that.
Sure.
Any other questions?
I probably better say, just because it will come up, if you look at the last one, it's a reduced funding and technology replacement. So we're very proud that we've become a one-to-one Chromebook school. And I'll vulnerably tell you, I feel hoodwinked, I think is probably the answer. If you'll recall, we were so excited over and over again when we would get these grants to purchase brand new Chromebooks. Like, sweet, $500,000. That's going to buy us, 500 more Chromebooks. Like, this is awesome. And it doesn't cost the general fund anything. Like, this is a big win. Well, it turns out you have to replace those things when they come through. And so, we are truly a one-to-one, and we probably have more Chromebooks than we do kids in this district right now, which is great. And it's awesome. But at the same time, our 5-year replacement fund has also become a reality that all of these free Chromebooks that we've been getting are actually quite a burden to our budget now as we try to keep them going. And so we are reducing that replacement strategy, and we're going to need to get creative a little bit in terms of how we use the Chromebook when it comes to our educational experience. But it's the grants have stopped, so we won't be buying more Chromebooks. But it's expensive now to replace all those on a 5-year cycle. And kids, it turns out, are hard on Chromebooks also, and chargers get lost and everything else.
Go ahead, Joy.
Well, does our district have a grant writing committee? that
We
just
do
looks
not.
at-
No, each of us kind of take turns writing grants and hopeful. And we've actually had a lot of luck lately. We've been in the millions in terms of grants received. But it's something we could explore in the future because it could pay for itself if done correctly.
Ryan, I know you had mentioned Chromebooks, but I'm assuming that this is also for other technology that's within the classroom that has a lifespan
Correct.
or a life cycle that we can extend
Yes.
a couple years, 3 years,
Yes.
things that normally would be replaced in a classroom.
Yep. You're saying that correct.
Exactly.
Up to and including the teacher's laptop,
Yeah.
which we've been really generous in. Yeah. Okay. I needed to get that one in, so
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, then final slide I have is our next budget meeting is May 10th at 5:30. If needed, the second meeting will be May 24th, and the third and final meeting would be May 31st. Again, check your emails for May 3rd. That will be when you receive your budget document and will also be published on our website.
And if I can, just on this, yeah, if you go back one slide, forward one slide. There you go. I would plan to at least have that second budget meeting. The first budget meeting is the first time we see it. And so I rarely recommend that we approve a budget when we've spent an hour looking at it. So I would just take that if necessary off in your own personal mind, because I would plan to have at least that second one for sure.
Is that the week of our May break though?
No,
The week after.
Week after.
before
Yep.
and week after, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
But this time Christina's going to get us the budget early, so we will have a lot of time
We'll
to
have time.
review it before.
If you guys have
Sure we can.
questions
That's good.
at that, I will say if there's questions that come up while you're looking at it in that week, send them to me and it's possibly something I can prepare.
I did have one question on the enrollment.
Yeah.
You don't have to go back to the slide, but it looked like the enrollment that Summit is expecting to be flat year over year.
Yes.
Is that what they've shared with you?
Yeah. They've been one
Yeah.
of these this year as well. They started down considerably more than what they thought, but they have closed the gap quite a bit over the course of the school year. Yeah.
Around, okay, thank you.
Melanie, were you going to ask something?
I was just gonna ask about the budget being available early.
Yeah.
Because that should give us some time to ask questions or meet with you so we're not just, skimming it for the first time that night. I think that might be helpful.
Very much.
Very helpful. So thank you for doing that.
No problem. That's all I have.
Okay, anything else budget? Thank you all for being here. Thank you
you.
for your service.
Great
We
job.
appreciate it very much. We will adjourn the budget
Workshop.
workshop
Terrible.
and see everybody at 7.